Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, your filthy casual place for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. I am DylanLasagna. This is episode number 141 of this icy yet spicy podcast. Today, we got a good episode for y'all today because, well, draft weekend has come and gone. Yes, 2 drafts took place in the span of a couple of days, but in this episode, we're going to be talking about the 2023 NFL draft and how this particular team did in this draft. Which team am I talking about? Well, of course, it's my team, the San Francisco 49ers. And, well, they didn't really have a start to this draft until late in day 2. They did have a good amount of picks going into draft weekend, but how did they end up using them all? They had a lot of needs to address, and coming into this draft when a lot of their free agents came and went. How do you pronounce it? But anyway, came and went, and they had a lot of holes to fill, and some fine tuning to do. Either way, for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, there are a lot of things for them to key in on if they want to make a serious run going into 2023. But that's what we're here to talk about in this episode. Now, for my brief thoughts on this overall NFL draft, I really honed in mostly on the first round of the draft, and I gotta say there was some interesting notes. There were some interesting surprises in that draft. I mean, I will say it was not really much of a surprise for the Carolina Panthers to take Bryce Young at number 1 overall. That was not much of a surprise. But what did surprise me, though, was after the Houston Texans did take a quarterback, which was the smart move, they decided to trade up and go get Will Anderson. They traded up to go get Will Anderson at number 3. So they traded up from 12 to 3 to go get Will Anderson. So very aggressive move, and honestly, the right move to make. So they got perhaps one of the best quarterbacks off the board and one of the best defensive ends off the board. So the Texans actually made, at least right now, a pretty good move on the first day of the draft. Then for the Atlanta Falcons at number 8, they made a really interesting move at number 8 by getting Bijan Robinson from Texas. And yeah, I did say I liked Bijan Robinson going into the draft. But it was interesting for the Falcons to take him because they did have another rusher that I don't remember his name, but he did break a lot of franchise rushing records. And they also had Cordell Patterson on the roster. So it was a little interesting for them to take Bijan Robinson. Maybe they needed another running back to go alongside Desmond Ridder to make the offense more explosive. But we'll see how that pans out. And then for the Lions, they had 2 first-round picks. They used the first one on a running back by the name of Jahmyr Gibbs when they had DeAndre Swift initially on the roster. And then on day 3, he was not on the roster. They traded him to the Philadelphia Eagles. So I was like, so that move makes a lot more sense now. But it was kind of weird that they trade away DeAndre Swift to the Eagles. So I was like, maybe there's something I don't know. But either way, overall, this draft, I mean, at least for the first round, it was pretty interesting with some twists and turns. And I gotta say, these teams, hopefully they address some of their holes, they address some of their needs. Obviously, as we get closer to season preview month in July, I'm gonna be taking a closer look at some of the players that these teams drafted and see if they can make an impact, especially the first round picks. Can they make an impact on these teams? And now, before we get into our main topic of the day, I do want to apologize. My throat is kind of booty. my throat is kind of booty. I'm battling allergies season here on Very Cold Lasagna. So bear with me. My throat may be a little on the bad side. But anyway, we're gonna try to do battle with it. We're gonna try to overcome as we talk about some social media things that we're here to talk about. Make sure you subscribe, turn on the notification bell. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment, like the episode, and share it with your friends. It's on Twitter or Instagram, Very Cold Lasagna. And if you're listening to this on the audio side of things, make sure you listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast on your audio device. Listen to the show wherever you get it, because Very Cold Lasagna, we're continuing to grow. I appreciate the support that's been coming along these past couple of weeks. Really, it's been great. As for the content that's coming up this week, we obviously have this episode that we're going to be covering, and then we have the WWE draft review that's coming along. I literally have on my phone the night 2 of the WWE draft. Like literally, what's playing on my phone right now? It's like a backstage segment with Bianca and Io Shirai. I don't know what's happening because I have it on mute. But anyway, I'm going to be reviewing the whole WWE draft. I'm not going to give my thoughts here. And then this Saturday is Backlash. So I think I mentioned this on my Instagram story that I will not be doing like my new like weekly 5-minute segment called the Raw SmackDown this week, because it is a pay-per-view, so it's not really worth talking about anything notable, because well, it's like the go-home show for WWE, so not really worth mentioning a lot of things on the Raw SmackDown for this week, because I want to keep my full focus on trying to get things ready for this pay-per-view review for Backlash. So that's what's coming up for Very Cold Lasagna. So make sure you tune in, stay tuned to any updates on social media, and subscribe and follow and all that good stuff. So let's get into the main topic of today's episode, and that is, well, how did the 49ers do in this 2023 NFL draft? When I was looking at what they exactly needed in this draft, when I talked about them at the very tail end of my Filthy Casuals guide to the 2023 draft, there were a lot of things, most definitely, because going to this draft, you had all these speculative needs of, is Trey Lance going to get traded? Are they going to go for a third string quarterback and all that stuff? And like, guys, chill the F out. Like, we have Sam Darnold. Like, we obviously don't know how Brock Purdy's going to be, but the biggest thing that they need to address in this draft was getting a right tackle, protecting that right side of the line, because that's what got Brock Purdy injured. That's what got Jimmy Garoppolo injured. Hell, it also nearly got Trey Lance injured until stupid play calling got him injured. But anyway, the offensive line was a major issue in the 2022 season, and the right side of the line was very bad, especially Mike McGlinchey, man. He was piss poor. He was a holding machine. So it's not great. It was just not great in 2022. So finding his replacement was essential. It was absolutely essential in this draft. Some of their top needs that they needed to get in this draft was a guard, whether it was in the left or right side. I mean, yeah, they already have Aaron Banks and Nick Savic and Spencer Burford. But, you can always add some people in the ranks to compete with them. And then you can always use another cornerback to add to the rotation, a safety to replace Jimmy Ward, a backup tight end, because, well, what if George Kittle got injured? And I put it out there just because a third string quarterback, just in the event that, the 49ers decided to be dumb dicks and trade Trey Lance. Just in the event. But anyway, so for the 49ers, they had about 10 total picks to work with in this draft because, well, the only thing was in this draft, they didn't have a first round pick or a second round pick because back in 2021, they made that big trade to go up and get Trey Lance. So they gave up like 2 years worth of first round picks. And then with the Christian McCaffrey trade along with it, they also gave up this year's second round pick. So nonetheless, they still have a bevy of picks throughout the weekend because of this new compensatory rule from like losing minority coaches like Robert Saleh, Mike McDaniel, and another general manager. So not all that bad. You still got 10 total picks to work with. So when you get to the nitty gritty of it, to their actual picks, you got to round 3. That's when they started picking players of who can really help them. And they actually made a trade up to the Vikings in round 3. So they traded like what was initially supposed to be their their third pick of the third round. So they traded like picks 102, 164 the 4th round, and 222 of the 5th round. So yeah, they traded those 3 picks to go trade up to number 87. And with that pick, they went to pick a safety. So they went right away to find Jimmy Ward's replacement, or maybe another guy to go alongside Talanoa Hufanga. I don't know. But either way, this guy by the name of Ji'ayir Brown from Penn State, from what I saw already, he looks like he could be an immediate contributor. Because what I like about him the most is that he knows how to create turnovers. He's crazy aggressive in both coverage and tackling. And he also has a lot of great anticipation of what the quarterback can do. Like he can read his eyes, the opposing quarterback's eyes very well. And he was the team MVP for Penn State in 2022 because of that. The only weakness from Brown is that he can get over aggressive, like too aggressive, and that can get him in trouble. So when he doesn't get what he wants, people can pick on him, and he doesn't have the top speed to make up for it. So also, when it comes to one-on-one coverage, he's not exactly great. He's not exactly reliable in run defense as well. So overall, with Ji'ayir Brown, he could be a great addition to the 49ers as they look to fill the void by Jimmy Ward's departure. Yeah, he lacks that top speed, but I do think he has a chance to contribute early with this multi-skilled assets. Like he can really read the quarterback well. He can tackle okay-ish in pass coverage. And I want to take something back about this run defense. He's really good. He can really detect the runner very well. He can detect like run plays really, really good. So Ji'ayir Brown could be an early contributor for the 49ers. Now, yeah, for this next pick that the 49ers had in the 3rd round, you had a lot of people scratching their heads. It really did. I can't really say much yet about this pick because we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. And that's the 99th pick of this draft. Now is a kicker. Yeah, a kicker, Jake Moody from Michigan. Now, I know, I could understand why people were upset with this pick because it was too early. It was too soon for way too soon for the 49ers to pick a kicker in the draft when they had other pressing needs to address, like a tackle. And I can certainly attest to that. I can certainly understand why they felt that need, especially when talk about the picks later on, they didn't address those needs. However, I can also defend the fact that the Niners also had to address at the same time, like another need that they needed. Well, and that was they didn't really have a kicker when Robbie Gould left in free agency. So sure, they had, I think it was like Zane Gonzalez. Then they signed him, but other than that, it's like then Gonzalez is kind of a bust during his current NFL tenure. And with Jake Moody, when you look at his film, he's a strong, accurate kicker under 50 yards, and he delivered for the Wolverines in clutch time. And then over 50 yards, he struggles with his kicks. As his kicks go wide left. So he's going to have to work with that. He's going to work on those tighter situations where he's asked to go kick in those long range field goal situations. I think his career high was like 59 yards. But yeah, he's going to have to work on improving those long distance kicks. So yeah, I can understand why people in the 49ers faithful were questioning John Lynch's thinking by drafting a kicker that soon. I'm not here to defend like the pick for Moody. He does have some solid tangibles. It gives him a chance to compete with Zane Gonzalez during the offseason for the sole starting kicker spot. And we'll see how it plays out. Maybe too soon. Maybe too soon for the 49ers to pick a kicker in that spot. But either way, I think it's okay for where it is. That's just my thinking. Then for their last pick in the third round, they picked a tight end by the name of Cameron Latu from Alabama. Now, this was another pressing need that they needed to address, the backup tight end spot, because, well, George Kittle's not getting any younger. And he's always been battling with injuries. For as good of a tight end he is, he's always had those health issues. And with Cameron Latu, he's a pretty solid tight end. He does a good job finding open gaps in coverage to allow his quarterback to throw to him. He has pretty reliable hands. The only thing is he doesn't exactly do well as a blocker. So that's what George Kittle excels at. And Latu, not exactly. He also doesn't have the fast speed and acceleration that today's NFL tight ends have. So Latu may be hampered a bit due to his lack of speed. But, whenever Kyle Shanahan wants to utilize a 2 tight end set or swap out George Kittle on plays, hey, you can at least use Latu if he gets that backup tight end spot. So, you never know. You never know. So the next pick we have goes into round 5 because the 49ers traded away their 4th round pick. When we get to pick number 155 in round 5, they wanted to address another one of their pressing needs, and that was a cornerback. This cornerback by the name of Darrell Lutter from Southern Alabama, so a small school. And I kind of like this pick. Even though he's from a small school, Lutter Jr. is pretty lengthy. He's a pretty sizable corner. He has good instincts on the ball, awareness and coverage. He does struggle a bit in one-on-one coverage with this average speed, and that can get him beat by more speedy receivers. But when he's in the spread zone coverage, like when the defense is more spread out, he's very knowledgeable of where receivers are going to go, and he knows where quarterbacks are going to look. So for Lutter Jr., he has the opportunity to compete for a spot in the cornerback rotation that's currently held up by Diomondre Lenore, Henry Thomas, Charvarius Ward. I mean, obviously Charvarius Ward's going to hold up one of those corner spots, but the other one, that could be a dogfight. Whoever's going to go alongside Charvarius Ward. So it's going to be an interesting one. Whoever's going to be a part of that cornerback rotation in the second slot. I think he's just going to have to do what he can to try to boost up his speed a bit in one-on-one coverage. Next up, we get to pick number 173. They picked an edge rusher, a linebacker by the name of Robert Beal Jr. from Georgia. So when I saw Robert Beal's tape, he was a solid producer since he had been a consistent part of Georgia's rotation in 2021. He's pretty lengthy. His length helped him assume control, and when they were going and offenses were trying to do running plays, he used his length to weaken rushing barriers from pretty much all angles. He was also willing tackler that he doesn't give up on the play, and when he wanted to go after whoever was holding the football. He had this strong burst, this strong rush that helped him limit a lot of whether it's the rusher, the running back, or quarterbacks, especially mobile quarterbacks. But even though he was an edge defender, he didn't have too many sacks in college. And he was just mainly used as a rotational piece rather than a starting one. So I think for Beal Jr., he's going to have to prove himself that he can be a key piece in that 49ers defense. But it could take a while if he does end up on the 53-man roster, because he'll probably be buried by the likes of Clinton Farrell and Austin Bryant and maybe even Kerry Hyder Jr. But I do think that there's a little bit of upside from Robert Beal. So if he can polish up on some of his areas of improvement, then I think he could be a key part of that 49ers defensive line. And then we get to the 6th round of the draft, pick number 216, linebacker D. Winters from TCU. I also like this pick because an interesting note about Winters is that he played a lot of positions in high school. So he pretty much played most of the positions on offense except for offensive line. So he played quarterback, receiver, running back, and then on defense, he played linebacker, defensive back, and then he also played as a punter. So he brings versatility, not just into college, but into the NFL. He also uses his past experience as a receiver and a defensive back to make himself a speedy linebacker that could play spread zone defense very well and go toe-to-toe in one-on-one coverage. He also makes these nice chase down tackles in both run and pass defense. So even though he's a good run defender, I actually do notice one glaring weakness. Him actually noticing a running play taking place, it is an issue. He takes a little bit of a while to see that running play is happening, and that can when he's trying to stop the run, it gets it takes him a long time, and that allows him to get stopped immediately by offensive linemen. So that could be an issue. That could be an issue for him going into the NFL if he makes that roster. So even though it could be an uphill battle for him making that 53-man roster, I do think that Winters does bring some versatility and speed as a linebacker and a multifaceted skill set. So I just think that he's going to have to make some quick decisions with the running game and the run defense and a little bit more IQ. So we get to the final round of the draft. Pick number 247, tight end Brandon Willis from Oklahoma. It was a little interesting why they picked another tight end in this spot. I wasn't sure of the thought process here, but at least with Brandon Willis, unlike with Cameron Latou, Brandon Willis brings a little bit of flexibility as a tight end, and he's flashed that flexibility in 2022. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Where he truly shines, however, unlike with Latou, he is a strong blocker. Because with his blocking ability, he's not like Mike McGlinchey or George Kittle blocking. He finds that right balance, being passive aggressive, leveraging his blocks, not making sure that he doesn't get called for holding and all that. So overall, he's a pretty good blocker, and he's also shown ability to be a runner, a thrower, even though he's technically a tight end. So, if he's asked to do those kind of plays, he can do it. But as a traditional tight end, even though he has some good hands, he creates some nice spacing for himself. He is pretty undersized. He doesn't really have that much lethal strength in him, so he may have to bulk up a bit if he wants to be a traditional tight end a little bit. So I do think that Willis could have a little bit of a stronger chance to make the roster than Cameron Latou, just a little, but he's going to have to learn quick that what he can offer in terms of flexibility may not always translate to the 49ers offense and just to the NFL offense in general. So he's going to have to learn to adapt to the current environment of the NFL and what exactly being an NFL tight end today really means. Then we get to the second and final pick for the 49ers, and that is a receiver by the name of Ronnie Bell from Michigan. So with Ronnie Bell, what really impressed me was his route running. He exactly know where to go. He's very flexible with this route style, and like he doesn't flash like elite speed, but he like takes off like right away. Like he's pretty effective like right off the snap. He's also very protective of the football. He can also go off the script for the quarterback. Like even though he sets his routes, like if he notices that his quarterback needs him to make a play, he'll go out of his way to make that play happen. He'll go and it's at open space, find an open space for him and make a catch for him. But even though with his strong route running skills, the yards after catch is actually interesting. Don't match it. Because when he makes those like yak catches, after the catch, it's like he kind of like stutter stops. He kind of doesn't really like know where to go after that. And he doesn't have the physicality to back it up. So that could be a problem for him going up against more physical defensive backs. Maybe, for example, like Jalen Ramsey or what's another good one? I don't know. I can't really think of one at the moment. But anyway, with Ronnie Bell, though, I do like the versatility. I do like the flexibility. Maybe as a receiver 3 or a receiver 4 for the 49ers with this strong route running and off-script abilities. I do think he has a chance to make the roster. I just think that he has to improve on doing things after the catch. But hey, I mean, you have Debo, you have Ayuk, you have Jennings to help you out and develop those skills there. And then our final pick of the 2023 NFL Draft at number 255, linebacker Jalen Graham from Purdue. Not a lot of notes about this guy. All I know is that, trying to find some tape on him is that, he seemed like a decent player coming out of his time in Purdue. He had a strong football IQ. He was very relentless trying to get to the football, but not exactly a strong athlete. And trying to play in one-on-one coverage is his biggest weakness. So compared to the other linebackers, trying to make a spot on the roster in this rookie class, it could be an uphill battle for him. But maybe his willingness to get after the ball, could be a key to making the special teams unit for him. So looking at some of the undrafted free agents, they a lot of it's running backs. I don't know why. It's like, don't we have enough running backs? They signed a couple running backs and fullbacks. They also signed another defensive lineman, and this is where things get interesting. This is the undrafted free agents is where they decide to pick and sign the offensive line. They address the offensive line. So there wasn't really a lot of scouting notes on these offensive linemen like Corey Luciano, Ilum Manning, Joey Fisher. It's like that, and that's literally like where I wanted to go with this point. It's like, even though yes, they did address like half of their needs in this draft, like safety, like another tight end, another edge rusher, maybe like in edge rusher depth. The biggest thing that they didn't address in this draft was linemen, like a tackle, right tackle. Like that's the biggest thing that they need, because that offensive line still pretty much in shambles. It's like you're not sure. Like Trent Williams is not getting any younger. Aaron Banks is like the only strong foundational piece in that line. Jake Brendel, I mean, he's solid, but can he repeat that success in 2023? I'm not sure what to think of Spencer Burford and Nick Zagievich, last year's 6th round pick. So why didn't they go out of their way to find a right tackle to replace Mike McGlinchey with one of their day 2 or early day 3 picks? And it's kind of weird that the reasoning was like, we didn't find anybody suitable. Like, really? Because the Chiefs managed to find one it's just weird. It's just really weird what their priorities are. I mean, it's not to say that, they didn't have themselves a bad draft or anything, because they did have a solid they did have a solid one. It's just that their highest priority, which is the offensive line, was not addressed in this draft, which kind of like marks it down a bit for me. Kind of like puts it down for makes it a downer for me a bit, because having a strong offensive line it's just as essential as having a good quarterback. Yet the 49ers seem to be banking heavily on their second-year guys, Burford and Zajevic. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that name. Zajevic, along with the undrafted free agents that they brought in, if they even make the roster. So, I don't know. Do they really want to see another one of their quarterbacks, whether it's Purdy, Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, get injured again? Do they not want them to make it throughout the season because of piss poor protection or piss poor play calling? I don't understand. I don't know what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's their thought process is. How hard is it for them to see teams like the Cincinnati Bengals, the Kansas City Chiefs, and hell, even the Miami Dolphins upgrade their offensive lines throughout the recent years because, well, their quarterbacks got hurt? It doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. But still, there's plenty of time for them before training camp, preseason, of course, the regular season, to sort out the whole roster. Figure out which of these draft picks can contribute early or at all, especially the offensive line, because, you don't want your quarterback to get hurt at any point before the regular season or during the regular season. You just have to find some hidden gem to protect whoever's going to be that quarterback in that broken offensive line, because I think that's still the biggest worry for me. The offensive line still is kind of a broken mess, especially on the right side. It didn't get any better, but I don't know. It just feels like it's not. I don't know. Let me rephrase that. It didn't get any worse, but it's also not getting any better at the same time. So, I'm not sure what the Niners are doing. Why aren't they investing in the offensive line? Why is it that the highest priority, right now? Why is it always the defense? It makes no sense. Yes, it's great to have it's great that they have a good defense, but it's also important to have an offense that can back it up, especially the protection up front. It makes no sense to me. But hopefully, they find some time to address it in these next couple of months, going to training camp, going to preseason, before the regular season, all the way in September. So I'd like to know your guys' thoughts on this draft for the 49ers. Did they do good? Did they do bad? Did they do just okay? Let me know your thoughts on how the 49ers did in this 2023 NFL draft. Do you think some of these guys will make the cut come roster cut day all the way in September? I'd like to know your thoughts on that too. But anyway, that is it for this edition of Very Cold Lasagna, episode number 141 of this icy yet spicy podcast. And keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until next time, peace out.